Here's the assumption. That's assuming Enoch and Elijah went into heaven. That's the assumption, right? Who told you Enoch went to heaven? Genesis 5:21-24. Read with me. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. Now pay attention. And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Pay attention. And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Took him where? Where did God take him? Hebrews 11, verse 5. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. Where does it say he was translated, taken to heaven? 2 Kings 2, verse 11. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Folks, who told you that this means heaven, the abode of God? Who told you this means heaven, the abode of God? You know what the word Shamayim means? It means the sky, the expanse above. Let me prove it to you so you don't take my word for it. I don't want you to believe what I say. I want you to see it for yourself. Here you go. Here it is. Shamayim, Shamayim plural, heavens. Okay. You go there, you're going to see that the word Shamayim can mean the sky, the expanse, and the location where the sun, the moon, and stars are located. It doesn't necessarily refer to heaven, the abode of God. You with me there? It doesn't refer to heaven, the abode of God. Not necessarily. I'm not saying it can't refer to that. If you look at how the word is used, it either means the sky, the expanse where the birds fly, or where the sun and the moon and the stars are situated. So when it says he was taken in heaven, that's simply another way of saying that Elisha saw Elijah take off in the sky and disappear. Okay, do you understand? 2 Kings 2:11 did not say that the chariots took Elijah to God's heavenly presence. It's saying that Elisha saw Elijah enter a chariot and took off into the sky. None of those passages say Enoch and Elijah entered God's heavenly abode. None of them. That's a misreading of those passages. Let me explain to you why that's a misreading, and I'm going to give you biblical support. Are you ready? They were taken to the nether realm, but the nether realm, the underworld, isn't God's heavenly abode. Can I prove it to you? Hebrews 11:5 again. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. So where did God translate him to? I'm going to show you where he didn't translate him to. Are you ready? Hebrews 11, verses 8 to 10. Watch here. Let me show you where Enoch wasn't taken to, according to Hebrews. Now, read with me. If you're not reading these passages, you're going to get confused. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. And he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in a tabernacle with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. Now, notice this. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Abraham looked for a city, not an earthly one, but a heavenly one that God made for believers to dwell in. That's what he desired. That's what he looked for. Hebrews 11, 13 to 16. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed, pay attention, that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. What country? And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. They're looking for a country. What country are they looking for? But now they desire a better country, that is a heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. No, Pistol Pete, none of you are following context. Masihu Akbar, Masihu Akbar. Verse 16 tells you, those who died, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, wanted to enter a country that is heavenly, but they did not enter it. They died without entering that heavenly city. What more do you need to show you from the Bible that before Christ's death and resurrection and ascension, none of them entered the heavenly country? That's where they wanted to go, That's where they desired to enter, but could not enter because Christ had not come and opened the gates. Hebrews 11, 39 to 40. And these all having obtained a good report. And in that list, he's talking about Enoch and Abel and Samson and Joshua. He's talking about all of them. And these all having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise. Guys, they did not receive the promise. Abel didn't receive it. Noah didn't receive it. Enoch didn't receive it. Joshua didn't receive it. Moses, all the people mentioned, none of them received the promise. God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. Did you catch it now? Hebrews 11 just said all of the Old Testament saints, and he mentions Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Joshua, Samson, even people entered Israel. None of them received the promise of a heavenly country because they could not be perfected before us. So they had to wait for Christ come, who perfects believers. And now that he's come, he's now opened heaven, and now they're there. Is it making sense before I move on to the next point? But folks, wait, wasn't Enoch just mentioned in Hebrews 11:5? He's one of those that didn't enter. So how can anyone believe Enoch went to heaven? Do you see why Book of Enoch cannot be scripture? Because the Book of Enoch says Enoch did go to heaven and he became one with the Son of Man, contradicting what Jesus says in John, contradicting Hebrews. You see my point? If the Book of Enoch is true, John is wrong and Hebrews is wrong. Stop believing the New Testament or throw those books out. But the Book of Enoch is not inspired. It's not true, though it has some truths in it. There are some true things in Enoch that you can accept, but not everything in it is true because it's not inspired and it doesn't come from Enoch. Because if John is right, that Jesus said no one has gone to heaven and seen its mysteries, and Hebrews is right, no one entered heaven when they died, then Enoch is wrong. Because Enoch says Enoch went to heaven and then revealed the mysteries of heaven. So did everyone get this so far? Now that Jesus has come, pay attention here. Now that Jesus has come, now that Jesus died, now that Jesus has been raised, now that Jesus has entered heaven, has he now opened heaven for believers? So that if you're a believer and you die in Christ, your souls and spirits enter heaven now. Now that Jesus has opened heaven. Let's see. Hebrews 6, 19 and 20. Which hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast, which entereth into that within the veil. The veil is the most holy place in heaven. Jesus has entered now the most holy place behind the veil in heaven. And because he's entered, whether the forerunner is for us entered, even Jesus made and high priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. You see what it's saying? It's saying Jesus has now entered the most holy place in heaven. The tabernacle and the most holy place where God's throne is. He's now entered behind the veil as our forerunner, and he now brings us into the veil with himself. Jesus has now opened the way for us to enter heaven, God's presence, because of him. Hebrews 4, 14 to 16. Seeing then that we have a great high priest. Guys, pay attention. Jesus, our great high priest, that has passed into the heavens. Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our profession. Now notice what it says in 15 and 16. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but we have a high priest that was in all points tempted like us, yet without sin. He's sinless. Now notice verse 16. Because you have such high priest, let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace. That means let's now enter the most holy place in heaven boldly, without fear that God will strike us down, because Jesus is there representing us, interceding for us, making us worthy to enter. So enter boldly. God won't consume you. He'll welcome you in because of Jesus, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. So when was heaven opened? When were we given the authority to enter God's heavenly presence and not be afraid of being consumed by being in his holy presence? When Jesus rose from the dead, entered the most holy place and presented his blood, his sacrifice on our behalf, making all saints worthy to now dwell in God's presence. Did you get it so far before I move on to the next point? Hebrews 9, 23 to 26. It was therefore necessary that the patterns of things in the heavens should be purified with these. So Jesus purified them so that we could be worthy to enter there. But the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. So the heavenly was purified by the blood of Christ, making us worthy to enter there and not defile it with our presence. Nor yet that he should suffer himself often, as the high priest entereth into the holy place every year with blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. So he's not like these earthly high priests who enter once a year and got to keep repeating it, because then Jesus would have to sacrifice himself continually. He didn't have to do that. So what did he do? But now once in the end of the world hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. Now let me read 24 again. For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Did you catch it? Jesus has entered God's heavenly presence for us in order to make us worthy to now enter there with him and be before God. So when could the saints enter God's heavenly presence and stand in God's heavenly presence? When Jesus entered there before the Father's presence, presenting his sacrifice to make us worthy to enter there and stay there with him. Now, with that said, let's read Hebrews 12, 22 to 24. I'm almost done answering this question. But you are come unto Mount Zion. You guys got to read this or you're going to miss it. Please read it. But you are come unto Mount Zion, unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You are now approaching. Notice we can now go there. You and I can now go there. Why? Heavenly Jerusalem, where there are innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect. Now they're there. The spirits of the men of faith who died, their spirits are now there in heavenly Jerusalem with God the Father and the angels and having church there. Why? Because 24. Jesus is there, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than that of Abel. Did you catch it? Now the spirits of humans who have died are perfected, and their spirits are now there in heaven before God the Father with the angels having church, because Jesus is there, their mediator, who presented his sacrifice to the Father and saying, I have made them worthy to enter our presence in heaven and to stay here with us. Elijah and Enoch went to Sheol, Abraham's bosom. They were not taken to God's heavenly presence. They only entered after Jesus opened the way and said, come on in. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Moses and Joshua, David and Solomon, Isaiah and Jeremiah, Elijah and Elisha, welcome. The gate has opened. Time to come home. Your Father awaits. Enter. Okay, now, coming back to this issue, final thing I want you to do, write this down. We're not going to read all of it. I want you to write down 1 Corinthians 15. Read the entire chapter, but read specifically 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 20 to 23. Write this down. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 20 to 23. And then write 1 Corinthians 15, 45 to 58. 1 Corinthians 15, 45 to 58. Okay, why? Paul says flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom. Let me explain what I mean. If you live in a body that's corrupt, decaying, perishing, and sinful, that body, you cannot enter heaven with it. Why? Because it'll be inevitable that if you enter heaven with that body, you're going to sin and be thrown out. So then Paul says, we will have to be transformed. Our bodies will be transformed in a twinkling of an eye, where our sinful desires will be removed and our bodies made incorruptible. And those are the only bodies suitable for heaven. So this body can't enter heaven because I will sin and be expelled. You with me there? You understand what I'm saying? If you believe Enoch and Elijah entered heaven, then their bodies had to be transformed and made incorruptible. But you got a problem. 1 Corinthians 15 says, Jesus is the first one with that incorruptible body. Everyone else will receive incorruptible bodies when he returns to raise the dead and transform those living on earth. No one has an incorruptible physical body besides Jesus. But if you believe Enoch and Elijah went to heaven and they didn't die, then you have to believe their bodies were transformed, so they had incorruptible bodies before Jesus. That's not going to happen, right? Because Jesus is the first fruits, right? Right? And that's all in 1 Corinthians 15. Read it. That means they cannot have physical bodies and enter heaven. So that's number one. So we already established they didn't enter heaven. But if they did enter heaven, their bodies would have to be changed, which can't happen because Jesus is the first with that incorruptible body. That means their bodies were discarded. And that's what you read in Hebrews 12:23. Enoch and Elijah are spirits there. They're not spirits with bodies. Remember what you read in Hebrews 12:23? You've come to heavenly Jerusalem where the spirits of the men made perfect dwell. Why? Because in some mysterious way, when Elijah and Enoch were transferred to the nether realm, to Sheol, Hades, to Abraham's bosom, God somehow rid them of bodies, so they entered there as spirits. Their bodies were gone.